Rain may glisten, but still I listen for hours and hours. I'm just a kid again, doing what I did again, singing this song. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
Hello and welcome to the Red Robin Podcast Weekly, which is powered by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Ties Auto Centre. I'm Chris Johnson, and tonight I'm joined by podcast regular Craig Eskrett and former Hull Kingston Rovers player and current Heritage Committee member Keith Pollard. And we also have Leeds fan Leigh Centurions joining us to help preview Saturday's Round 6 Challenge Cup tie against the Centurions. Now, normally we'd kick off with a review of our previous fixture, but with rumours starting to circulate that Tony Smith and Danny Maguire in the frame for the vacant Leeds Rhinos job, it's only right that we start there. Craig, I'm going to come to you first, mate. Great to be speaking to you again, and thanks for coming on to the podcast. How worried are you that Tony Smith might not be in post next week?
I'm not too concerned, to be honest. I've seen quite a lot on social media the last few days. Some were saying that maybe he should have just come on regarding all the rumours on about obviously his press conference yesterday. But at the same time, I think he did the right thing, not coming out, because all he was going to be getting asked was, is there any truth in the rumour? It's not the first time he's not turned up to a press conference as well. I know he's had Danny Maguire, he's had David Hodgson, and obviously he's used Stanley Jean this week. His name was always going to be branded about, just because of the job he's done at Rovers. He's been at Leeds before. But he started a project with us, and I think he wants to finish it off. That's my opinion.
Yeah, Keith, obviously Tony has stated previously, hasn't he, that he's enjoying his time at Hull Kingston Rovers. He's found his love for rugby league again, coaching the side. But the bookies have only recently, I think he was at 10-1, but I saw before we came on air, he'd been named joint favourite with Danny Ward to be the Leeds Rhinos head coach. Obviously, some bookies are still, giving him longer odds, but do you think it's a realistic proposition, Tony Smith going to Leeds?
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose, yeah, he's been there before. Whether he wants to go back is another story, but money always talks, doesn't it? I've talked to one or two people from Leeds, and his name's never come up. The only one that's come up is Ryan Carr, the bloke who was at Featherstone, I think, with Agar. And they went back to Parramatta, as far as I'm aware, that under the promise that he was going to take over from Brad Arthur, and it never materialised. And he could be in the running. But if he is, he is. If he is, he isn't. There's not a lot we can do about it. I have my own personal things on some things he does are very strange to me. So, but if it goes, it goes. There's always another one who'll take the space, isn't there?
Yeah, and of course, Craig, he's not the only name who's been mentioned, because Danny Maguire's also been tipped to potentially be the head coach at Leeds. I think he's also stated before that he's quite happy with an assistant coach's role, and I think it was only last month he was at a do at the club where he was saying about how much he was enjoying his time at Rovers. And there's no doubt that if you lost both of them, it'd be a huge loss. But you don't really want to see either of them going, do you?
It would bleed blue and gold, wouldn't it, if he cut his head off, Maguire. And I think it's 99% certain that he will finish up there one day. Whether this is a bit too early for him to go as an head coach, I don't know. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He's a smashing kid, and he's serving his apprenticeship. It's like a lot of things. You've got to learn before you jump in at the deep end. You've got to learn that you're going to do the right job, or know that you're going to do the right job. I mean, I've been a player coach and coaching, and it's the loneliest job in the world, believe me, because, what are you doing all right? You're doing all right. Then when you're not doing well, you've got knife marks in your back. But I don't know. I don't think he'll go, but there is other rumours going round that I won't mention, but there is other rumours going round why you would want to go. As you say, Craig, he started a project, and it was a 5-year project, wasn't it, in the initial stages. and he's now more or less got the players that he wanted, hasn't he? He's brought all these players in now, and all right, they haven't had a good start, but one or two of them are starting to look good. The second row, what call him?
Frankie Holton.
Yeah, he's looking good. The prop's looking good. They got from Garrett from Dewsbury. He's starting to feel his feet now, and I think these kids, people say, or coaches say, I've picked the games I think we can win. Well, I wouldn't have a coach that said that. I'd want to win every game. I would think I would going to win every game. That's why I play. If you're going to play darts, dominoes, cricket, golf, you're playing yourself, aren't you? And you want to win. You want to win every game.
That's right, Keith. When we talked in the last podcast about Rovers changing that mentality about, and obviously coming up to Catalan, and we played St Helens, about when we play these teams, it's not a free hit. We should be aiming to compete with them and looking to get the win. If we go back to Tony Smith, the rumours started, gathering a lot of pace when he didn't turn up for the press conference. And then Dave Gallagher has commented on Facebook. He said, is the announcement that should have been at 5 o'clock today a wind up? I saw a few things circulating on social media about Rovers potentially holding a press conference, etc. at 5 o'clock. James O'Brien, the Hull Daily Mail reporter, quickly quashed that and said that he'd heard nothing. But obviously, James wrote an article in the Hull Daily Mail today saying that Rovers fans should expect more from the club and maybe more from Tony Smith. And Craig, do you think that if Tony Smith had just done that press conference and the first question he was asked is, are you going to be the Leeds head coach? He just said no. That would have pretty much quashed anything. Do you think he should have just done that?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a difficult one. Yes, from a fan's point of view, he should have done it. But there must be something behind the scenes, like that the club know he's happy. He's come out before and said he's happy. And also, people forgetting he was actually having to must be prepared for another meeting with the RFL. I think it was the RFL, the referees, about the game. And if he doesn't want to answer silly rumours, he doesn't have to.
We had him on the Heritage one night last year, and he hates when you watch him talking. If he's on the camera on TV, he never ever looks at the person who's asking him the question. He's always looking here, there, or everywhere, and he hates doing it. He hates public speaking, right? And personally, I'm thinking he don't want to be answering questions like, "Are you going to be? Are you leaving?" He don't want that hassle, right? So, and he's quite within his own rights not to come on. It's all right. The supporters saying they deserve better, but he's only human at the end of the day, And if there are rumours, why should he come on? Why should he come on and just give a load of waffle about, well, no, I'm not interested. And if he is, well, if he is, there's, like I said earlier, if he's going to go, he's going to go. There's nothing you can do about it.
No. But it's a great point you've made there, Keith, about, I think he's most comfortable when he's in and around the players and he's talking to the players, etc. I don't think he likes necessarily being in front of the press. I think he sometimes finds it a bit awkward.
He actually hates it because he's not I don't think he's a public bloke. I don't think he's not a social animal. He's not out there. He's not chasing the glory, is he? He's not I can't think of a bloke that does, but it's just what he is. He likes coaching. He's got back into his love of coaching. He fell out of it with Warrington. He went out of it. He went a bit to football, didn't he? He got involved with soccer, like mentoring managers and that sort of stuff. And then he's got back into rugby league. He's even moved to Hull now, hasn't he? He lives here. Yeah.
And it's funny you should mention as well, Keith, the time he spent away from rugby league. Obviously, he was working with the Premier League, etc. And that bears some fruits this week, hasn't it? Because the club announced a partnership with the Football League Managers Association with a couple of managers coming down to Rovers to look at how we do things and how Tony Smith operates and stuff like that. So if you think, just on that basis, if Tony Smith's instigating that kind of partnership, you can't imagine him wanting to jump ship soon if he's going to be, committing people and bringing people like that to the table.
Yeah. I think, personally, on what I know, I don't think he'll go. But that's not to go by, is it? You know what I mean?
No, are you any good at predictions, Keith?
No.
No, good. So we'll ignore everything you've just told us.
No, well, my prediction is that he won't go until if he goes. I mean, his contract's up this year, and so is Danny Maguire's. If they're going to go, I think they'll stick it here well at the end of the season, and if they're going to go, they'll go next year, or at the end of the year. That's my prediction then.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a rarity, isn't it, that Craig, I think most Rovers fans, well, I'd say probably 99% of Rovers fans are in agreement that we really don't want to see Tony Smith go. I think we've seen what we achieved last season. We've seen the journey we're on, and we're hoping that is going to bear fruits, obviously, at the end of this season as well. But, you know, I don't think there's any Rovers fans who would really want to see Tony Smith leave yet, is there, Craig?
No, definitely not. You know, what he's done to the club since he's come in, you know, he managed to keep us up. He's built his own squad. He's brought younger players through. And, you know, from what he says in press conferences, he enjoys coming to the training ground, you know, training that these young and up-and-coming players. So, yeah, ideally, would like to see him sign a contract at Rovers, yes. But there's a reason why Tony Smith doesn't sign long contracts. And that, again, I think he alluded to before about falling out of love with the game. He has come back. He said he's enjoyed it. He's moved to Hull, like Keith said. So, yeah, I'd rather see him sign sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and Keith, do you think if he'd, you know, obviously his contract is up at the end of the season, do you think the quicker he signs a new one, it'll just put everyone's mind at rest?
Yeah,
that he's not gonna...
it would, wouldn't it? I mean, I mean, I don't know. They'll go with managers whether if you've signed a contract, how binding is it? I mean, players' contracts aren't binding at all. They just seem to go whenever they want. But at the end of the day, that is, it's like your job, isn't it? Well, it is your job. You give a week's notice, don't you? Or how much notice does he have to go? If you're in a job and you don't like it, or if you're on a job and you're getting £1,000 a week, and somebody offers you £5,000 a week, you'll go. Don't know how much you like your job. Man, I'm a mercenary. I've been all over the world working, you know, and I've had like one job I lasted half a day. But I don't know. I keep saying if he goes, he goes, and somebody else will take his place. But I mean, Tim Sheens. People criticise Tim Sheens, and I like the way Tim Sheens, what he did. People just didn't understand him, and he's gone back to West Tigers now. And I watched an interview last night with them on Fox Sport where they interviewed him because he's taken over the hierarchy of West Tigers, hasn't he? And he talks a lot of sense. And I thought he was a good coach, mate. But they got rid of him, didn't they? And the fans didn't like him for the things he did. We've got to remember that half the fans don't know what they're watching anyway. So, I mean, I've got been slagged this week on Facebook about that tackle that the Huddersfield kid got 10 matches for. Ridiculous.
Well, don't worry, Kate. I've been in that stand long enough to realise that you're probably right. Half the people don't know what they're looking at because they're having a great time, especially with Craven Street coming on. Everyone's enjoying the hospitality and stuff. So I totally agree with you. But if we rewind, Keith, I know it seems a long time ago now, but it was actually less than a week ago we took on the Catalan Dragons down in the south of France. We're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about that game now because I think Rovers put in a pretty decent performance and they definitely looked like they had the chances of beating Catalan. Rovers lined up that night with Will Dagger at fullback. We had Wood out on the right with Jimmy Carnos at centre. Kenny Dowell was partnering Ryan Hall out on the left with Lewis and Abdul in the halfbacks. Garrett started at prop with Jez Litton at hooker with George King the other prop, and Holton and Staunton started in the second row with Minchella at loose forward. And the interchanges were 𝐂𝐿𝐴, Sims, Ryan and Richards. Just before we go into the game, Craig, how surprised were you to see that lineup on the night?
I wasn't too surprised, to be honest. I was surprised that Ethan Ryan was on the bench. I actually thought there could possibly been an injury at the time. And I was surprised maybe Greg Richards was back in. Well, yeah, I thought it was pretty strong. Overall, it was a pretty strong lineup. And I agreed with what you said last week about we shouldn't be having that mentality of them free hits. I think we should be going to places now like Catalan and giving them a game and potentially winning it. And on another day, I know you're going to go through the game, we could have done.
Yeah, and it was Catalan who started the game strongest, with the Dragons almost scoring the first try of the game after Matt Whitley received a cute pass from Mitchell Pearce. The Rovers' defence held firm, although it didn't take Catalan long to register their first points of the evening, with Sam Tonkins slotting over 2 points after the Rovers' defence had been judged to be offside. And that was followed quickly by the first try of the game on minute 14 after 𝓡𝓸𝓷𝓼 collected the ball out wide for an easy score. And Rovers were then handed a route back into the game when Pearce was sin-binned for a horrible spear tackle on Will Dagger, a challenge which was arguably worthy of a red card. Before we continue, Keith, you've already mentioned about some stick you were receiving. What was your thoughts on the Mitchell Pearce tackle on Will Dagger?
Well, I thought I'll say what I'll put on Facebook. That I'm concerned with the way the players nowadays are that strong, right? With all this weight training and all this wrestling they do, and they're that far apart. Every tackle's now a car crash, right? Kid comes running in. If you don't hit him right, his own body weight, his own velocity, if you like, will take him over, will turn him upside down. And I think that's what's happening with these tackles. I'd love to see us go back to the 5-yard rule, not 10 yards apart, where we used to play in the days but far away. You know, when we was 5 yards apart, you stood deeper to run onto the ball. But now you've got blokes like 20 yards apart, haven't you? Really, and it's a crash, a car crash, and you've only got to hit him wrong, and he's up in the air.
Keith, do you see any similarities with that and the Will Price tackle?
Well, similar, but I thought Pearce's tackle, after seeing both of them, Pearce's tackle was worse tackle than what Price's was. I mean, it was just, I don't know, he just seemed to go and he went over and that was it. But Pearce actually lifted him and drove him into the ground, and he got 2 matches. I mean, you haven't seen a real spear tackle for years. I was in Aussie when they used to do it regular, where 2 blokes got on you, one with your arm and one with a leg, and drove you into the ground. and that was legal when I was in Aussie. Then they stopped it there. So they're not really spear tackles. They're just tackles that maybe go wrong. But 10 matches is absolutely ridiculous. All right, apparently he did it last year in the academy. He got suspended for one of the similar tackle. So all right, let's say it was worth 4, so maybe 6, but 10 never. And I thought Pearce's was worse anyway. He got a red card, never mind a yellow card.
Craig, obviously, you know, Pearce received a yellow card on the day, and he's got a 2-game ban on the back of that. I played devil's advocate on social media because I put a comparison of the tackle with that of Will Price's, and for me, the only reason I put that is because it was the lift from Pearce, but then also it was the intent to drive him down into the ground, and you know, I think, you know, Will Price tackle, you know, was deserving of the ban, but I just don't understand why it was only a 2-game ban.
No,
the intent seemed to be the same.
A bloke got 5 matches for throwing a punch, and throwing a punch is an automatic sending off nowadays, right? And the kid from, was it St Helens? No, the Wigan lad got 5 matches for punching. So the kid who he punched must have punched him back, and he got knocked. So where's the fairness in it?
Exactly. And what did you make of the tackle, Craig?
To be honest, I actually watched it live, and straight away, with the way the game's going, with like yellow cards and stuff, I thought it was a straight red. I honestly thought he was going to get a red card for it. I know what you was, when you put it on social media about the comparison, I 100% got where you was coming from. It was, obviously, Connor wins okay, which, you know, thank God for that. I felt like Price, he just got it wrong. It was clumsy. There was no malicious. It wasn't a malicious tackle. Where Pearce, I actually thought it was. He did dump him up, and he's kind of drove his shoulder as well into Dagger's head, going over him. I was surprised he got 2 matches. But at the time, I was surprised he got a yellow card.
It's really surprised as well because a lot of the responses were received on social media about, because I said, well, what is the difference? And people were basically saying that Mitchell Pearce was making an honest tackle and he got it wrong, whereas Will Price was deliberately going out to hurt a player by the tackle that he made. And it's only my opinion. There's no, but my opinion is that I think Mitchell Pearce was. I don't think it was an honest tackle gone wrong. I think it was just really poor technique, but then also he compounded that poor technique with the intensity and the aggressiveness to drive Will into the ground. And do you know what? I don't know if you agree, Keith, but I think Mitchell Pearce is lucky that Will's a tough kid. Will, the amount of hits Dagger takes, the amount of bangs he takes, head knocks, etc. He's maybe sometimes guilty of being too honest and too tough because he gets back up after these tackles. Yeah. But that was another one where, I think the aggressiveness shown by Pearce was deserving more than just a yellow card.
But it's like I said earlier, where it's half the problem. It's not a problem because they're fitter, they're faster, they're eating all the right stuff, they train 7 days a week or 5 days a week. They're athletes, but they're giving yellow cards away as if they're going out of fashion. I mean, there's blokes running into a tackle, and there's one today. And St George player got 10 minutes. He went into tackle a bloke, and the bloke fell into his shoulder. Right, he's headed to his shoulder, and he got 10 minutes. It's not his fault, but they're that going back in. They're that big and strong, and they're doing these wrestling techniques now, aren't they? Where they hold them down and this lifting, and it's. I mean, how many times do you see where at the end of a tackle, and the kid from Catalan, the hooker from Catalan, does it a hell of a lot. He hangs onto the bloke's foot and pulls it back with him. He runs away. No, he should get a yellow card for that. He is deliberately trying to hurt somebody. I mean, we used to go out and deliberately to try to hurt people when we played. That was part of the game. But no, it's. I don't know. I can understand what they're doing. They're trying. They're worried about getting sued for head knocks and all like this with dementia, and there's a lot of players that are getting dementia and what have you. But there's more women die of dementia than there is men, and none of them play rugby league.
No, it's a good point, Keith. Yeah. Well, the one thing though that it did help Rovers with is that man advantage, because Rovers definitely started to get a bit more of the ball. And then Rovers got a penalty which took them into Catalan territory, and it was Rovers who then registered the first score of the night. Abdul threw the ball out wide to 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐿, who had worked a neat 2-on-1 with Ryan Hall, which left the England man with a clear sight of the Dragons' try line. Jordan Abdul missed a touchline conversion, with him then suffering more frustration after he put 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐿 over the line, only to see the play pull back for a forward pass. Michael Lewis went close as the Robins continued to turn the screw, but the Dragons were gifted the opportunity to extend the lead after Abdul decided to kick a long ball directly from a scrum play. 2 penalties later, Tompkins knocked over a straightforward kick, and the score was 10-4 to the Dragons. Rovers were then on the back foot again as half-time approached, but a really smart piece of play by Ryan Hall gave the Robins the field position to pull level. Hall intercepted a Mitchell Pearce pass after return from his yellow card, and he intercepted the pass to perfection and carried the ball inside Catalan's 20. And it was only a few tackles later before 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐿 powered over the try line from close range, with Jordan Abdul adding the extras from out wide to make the score 10-10 at half-time. Craig, you've said you watched the game live. What was your feelings at half-time with the score at 10-10?
I thought we should have been in front. That try where they disallowed it for a forward pass, I honestly didn't see it. Now, I don't know if I had my Rovers glasses on, but I honestly thought, if anything, you'd call it flat, that one of them flat balls, but it was never forward.
It seemed like a home call, didn't it? It seemed like the referee were, you feel like, because he was at Catalans, just an easy call to make, wasn't it? But I agree with you, Craig. I saw it, and I didn't think it was forward whatsoever.
Yeah, I just think I thought our attack, it wasn't great, and if we could just execute some of the players a bit better defensively, we was great, and I thought we could win this game.
Yeah, and I thought Craig as well. I don't know, I think there was a lot of noise made about Catalan's record and how well they'd been doing, but they didn't actually come out the blocks firing that well. And I thought there was lots of opportunities for Rovers to really, maybe, take advantage of Catalan's, but we just seemed a little bit slow. But I thought at 10-10, I did think the game was there for the taking.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember if it was first half or second half where Greg Richards drops it right near the line.
Yeah, well, we're going to go into the second half now because a forward-yard try was ruled out for a forward pass before both sides traded sets, with Greg Richards sparing Rovers' best chance of the half after he spelled the ball just a few metres from the Dragons' try line after a fantastic ball steal from the ever-impressive Frankie Holton. And although Rovers were looking the most likely to score, it was Catalans that scored the all-important next try in the second half, as 𝐂𝐿𝐴 collected a pierced grubber kick, which had rebounded off the post. As the half wore on, Rovers were becoming more and more frustrated with a number of 50-50 calls going against the Robins, and those frustrations boiled over after they were judged to have knocked on 40 metres out from their own try line, with Rovers penalised for kicking the ball away and 𝐂𝐿𝐴's added 2 further points. That was the end of the scoring, Craig, with the game finishing 18-10 in favour of the Dragons. We talked about in the first half how Rovers did okay, and at half-time we thought, if Rovers step up a gear, the game's really there. But that one Catalan's try really seemed to hammer home the advantage to Catalan. But I think that mistake that you mentioned, Greg Richards, great ball steal from Frankie Holton, but to spare a chance like that was almost criminal, wasn't it? Because I think if Rovers had scored that, I think we'd been good for the victory then.
Yeah, definitely. And, in rugby league, it's all about momentum. And I felt once he knocked on that Catalan just got that momentum, and we didn't really get too many chances after that. Defensively, again, though, you couldn't fault them. But yeah, you could see the players getting frustrated with the decisions the referee was making, which, like you said, end up kicking the ball away. You're going to get a penalty against you.
Yeah, and there's a few talking points to come out of that game, wasn't there? But Keith, before I come to you, after the game, Steve McNamara said, we've shown already this season that we can win games in different ways, and this was a great test for us. I'm really pleased with the way Hull KR pushed and pulled us throughout the game, just as they have done so many times in recent seasons. This is exactly the game we needed at this stage. I'm really pleased we got the win. Tony Smith then said after the game as well, it was a great effort from the boys. We needed to be a bit better with the ball and get some support to the breaks we created. Our defence was terrific, and it's hard to say if the better team won. There wasn't much between the teams. What do you think was the difference between the two teams on Friday, Keith?
They run onto the ball and we don't.
Is it that intensity? Do you think it's the intensity we
stand so flat. It's a simple. That's my, and I've complained. Well, not complained, but moaned about that for a couple of seasons now. We play this flat. You mentioned it, Craig. This flatland football, right? We're standing still when we're taking the ball. You watch Catalan forwards; they come from deep, and they're running onto St Helens forwards. Come on from deep. All your top teams are running onto the ball, but we're so flat. And if you're not, when you're stood within. You can be offside, or used to be offside. If you was in 5 yards of getting the ball, you was offside as well. But I think they've changed that rule now. But if you're running onto the ball, you can pick where you're going to be running. When you stood still, all right, they might not be standing still, but they might be taking a couple of steps then getting the ball. But they're not coming onto it, and it's not on target, isn't it? And they're coming up as well in defence. So you've no chance, have you? And that's half the problem with Rovers' attack. We've said the defence is brilliant, and we've got good attacking players, but we're just not running onto it. Now, whether this is the way Tony Smith plays, or whether that's it must be because he's the coach. But we've done it for a couple of years now. And I know I'm an old phony, but fogey, should I say? But you'll go back even to the 80s, and we watch films on the 80s and the way Rovers used to play, running onto the ball. And there's not the game hasn't changed. You run, you pass, you back up, and you tackle. It's the only things you've got to do. And the run and back up and pass is the 3 elements in your attack, and we don't do it.
Obviously, 𝐂𝐿𝐴 though showed, didn't he, with his try, what he can do if you're strong and powerful and you're close to the line. Craig, Kenny Dowell, probably man of the match. You know, a guy who's 34, he's coming to the end of his career, you know, potentially, you know, leaving Rovers at the end of the season, but he turns up week in, week out. He definitely led the line on Friday night, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first couple of games, that left-hand side, I think it was on the podcast before, and we said how quiet it's been. But you can see now that they are starting to move the ball out to give them the space. And you can just see his quality. You know, he does lead the line. He's not scared to pick the ball up and play the ball and run at him. He gets stuck into a tackle. He just seems to be everywhere at the minute, and you can't fault him. And that's, well, he's captain for a reason, and you can see that now.
As a winger in the NRL, he's one of the top 2 try scorers in the history of the NRL. As a winger, I mean, I'd like to see him back on the wing, mate. I would, honestly. I'd put Crooks in the centre if he's fit. I'd like to see Wood playing in the centre anyway.
Yeah, well, we're going to come on to that, you know, potential change for the league game, but I think Sean Kenny-Dowell definitely, you know, it was definitely his best performance of the season, and as well, Keith, another great performance from Frankie Holton, who continues to, you know, he just seems to get better and better each game, doesn't he?
And I think his attitude as well. I was talking to Bones before the season started, and I was talking about the new kids that have come in, and he said, well, Frankie Holton, when he walked in the dressing room, he said he walked in as if he owned it. You know, I'm here, lads, sort of thing. Let's at him, you know, and that's the attitude you want.
Which is really interesting, though, Keith, isn't it? Because, you know, days gone by, if a player had done that, you know, coming to the changing rooms, you know, a lot of first teamers might have been a bit abrasive to that. Whereas now, you know, it seems to be the modern way. You've got to stamp your authority, haven't you? And you know, but also he's backed it up with performances, hasn't he? He's not been all talk. He's really backed it up.
No, I think he's a great player, mate. I mean, he got good raps when he was at Featherstone, and nobody really had heard of him. And when he came here, and I'll just throw a name in the hat. One of the what I can say, not best in the right word, but one bloke that did exactly the same thing was Frank Foster, and look what he turned out to be. You know what I mean? When he was in the dressing room, you knew he was there. Harry Poole was another one. He had that aura about him, you know. And I think this kid might well have it. It's just going to be, if he does get that good, it's be hanging on to him, won't it?
Yeah. And Craig, no Matty Parcell. Obviously, Jez Litton had to do 80 minutes. I think the plan, what Tony Smith said is that Ethan Ryan might come on at hooker and try and play in broken play, etc. Ethan Ryan never got on, but what did he make of Jez Litton playing without him to follow on from Matty Parcell?
Yeah, I thought he did okay, actually, because I remember I said before about Matty Parcell has to start for me. I think Jez Litton is a future starter. But I actually thought he grew into the game. He got through a lot of work. I'd like to have seen him have a rest, especially in that second half, just to change it up a little bit. But yeah, I thought he was brilliant. And I know you're going to talk about the team soon, but I actually think he'll be rested this week for the amount of work he did last week.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? And another talking point that came out of the game was Albert Vette's 27-minute stint. I got a bit of stick, probably for not putting into context about his stats, you know. Obviously, 2 carries in his 27 minutes, but also he fronted up in defence. I think he made 17 tackles. But, you know, it's frustrating, isn't it, that we see him injured once again. We're not getting a regular run. We've seen it with Corbin Sims. It's not just the imports that are suffering. Dean Hadley's another one who I don't think we see enough of him on the pitch. You know, he's play one game, couple of games injured, and there's no consistency. And what I'd say is great credit to Albert Vette, because I think apparently he had an ankle injury which prevented him from being able to really carry the ball, but he did front up in defence. He made tackles, etc. And he, bit like the Warrington semi-final, knockout game in the playoffs, where although he was injured, he still made his presence felt on the pitch. But you know, I don't know what it is, Keith, but we just don't seem to be able to get Corbin Sims, Albert Vette, just getting them a really good run in the team, do we?
Yeah, I don't know what it. I mean, 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐚, he was reputedly he was the better of the brothers, apparently, before he broke his arm a couple of times, didn't he? It just doesn't seem to be getting, as you said, it just don't seem to be getting a run. And injuries, is it the way they train? I don't know. I've never known. It's going back to, like I said earlier, about they're all big and strong, and I've never heard of all these ACLs that they keep getting, and AC joints, and all. You never go out like that when we played. You might get a cork thigh now and again, or a broken arm, but there's just the body, the joints don't seem to be able to be taking the hits. You know what I mean? And like with these ACLs in the legs, and then what we call it from Warrington's, he's done his AC joint on his shoulder. I don't know what it is. I still go back to what I said before, that they're all too big and strong, and all this weight training. We never did weight training. The only thing, everything we lifted after a game was a pound.
Yeah, but Keith, how many pounds were you lifting? That's the thing.
Yeah, but you only lift from half the way, don't you? Then it's half a pound, don't you? No, I don't know. I don't know the answer, Jono. It's and as I say, the training they're doing. I mean, it's warming up they do. They're doing half an hour warm up. They do more in the warm up than I used to do in a game. They look when they come off before the start, they look knackered. They look tired. I just don't get it. I just don't get it, honestly.
No, and the thing is as well is there's a thing about overtraining, isn't there? And over warming up and stuff. One of the things that really pleased me though, Craig, was seeing that Mikey Lewis was not afraid to go toe to toe with Sam Tomkins.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because everyone was going. I'd seen it on Twitter quite a lot about that. It was great to see Mikey Lewis get under his skin, and I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, Tomkins walks away with 2 points, and it's good to wind like a player up of his caliber. It's good to see him get wound up, but Tomkins was laughing at the end. He got the 2 points. If Mikey Lewis got the 2 points, even better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's no saying, Craig, don't poke the bear. Because Tomkins, I don't think he's been as good as he was because he's getting older. But when Mikey, I didn't see all the game, I saw bits of it. But you just don't upset players that if they're going to turn it on, they can crucify you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt though that Sam Tomkins is a supreme competitor, isn't he? And he's able to back up his wind-ups with his performances because he's still.
I wish he was in a Rovers shirt. Put it that way.
There's no doubt he's still one of the best players, if not top 3 best players in Super League. From my point of view, it's good to see that Mikey Lewis wasn't overawed, and he was, and we've seen in games gone past, years gone past, Sam Tomkins can get under the skins of many players and almost affect the game. But it was interesting to see Mikey Lewis almost stand up to the challenge and say, no, I'm not going to take that. And I think for too many years, we've seen Rovers players almost shrink, haven't we? And when the going gets tough, they sort of, backtrack, either go into the shells, where I definitely don't think we've got that with Mikey Lewis, Craig.
No, I don't think we do. And I actually think, if I remember rightly, against Warrington in the playoff, he got under Stephen Ratchford. There was a little bit, just a few comments in and then. You can see Rashford, he wasn't happy about it. But yeah, you're right. It's good to see actually someone in the club that's going to go out there and try and line the opposition up. And I think it'll be great when he starts doing it to 𝐁𝐜𝐿 in a few weeks' time.
It's too early to start talking about that. The build up for that goes absolutely bonkers anyway. So the last thing we need to do is start talking about it a couple of weeks before. Like Keith said, sometimes don't poke the bear, because sometimes you can be on the wrong end of it, can't you? But before we talk about our Challenge Cup opponents this Saturday, Leeds Centurions, we're just going to round up the results from our other teams at the club. On Saturday, the reserves ran out 38 points to 18 victors over St Helens at Craven Park. And it was a strong-looking reserve side with Ben Crooks, Will Marrow and Milnes, Ethan Ryan and PLT all getting 80 minutes under their belts. On Sunday, the club's women's side beat Wigan St Pat's 46 points to 4 in their League Cup tie. And only last night, the under-16 scholarship side contributed to an excellent game of rugby league at the University of Hull as they hosted the first male derby of 2022. Unfortunately for us, it was the black and whites who claimed bragging rights after they scored a last-minute drop goal to run out 29 points to 28 winners. And tomorrow, the academy side is back in action as we take on Wakefield Trinity under-18s. That's at the Be Well Support Stadium over in Wakefield, kick-off 7 p.m. And if you are going to travel over to back the boys, it's £5 for adults and £1 juniors. But now we come on to our Challenge Cup round 6 tie against the Leigh Centurions. And I'm delighted to be joined by someone who's been waiting patiently to join us. Luke, how are we doing, mate?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you boys?
All right,
Hi,
Luke.
Luke.
How are we doing?
Yeah,
All
thanks
right.
for joining us, Luke, and apologies for keeping you waiting. Obviously, I said to you before you came on, we'll spend a bit of time talking about Tony Smith. Obviously, that's a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah.
I know you messaged me and said, he's going nowhere. It'd be interesting to get your outside perspective on it.
I just think he's obviously come to you guys as a project, and I think he's not at the end of that project timescale, and I think he'd be stupid to jump at this point in his career. Obviously, Leeds have spent a lot of money, haven't they, over the last 12, 24 months. He's not going to have the funds, though, I don't think, to go and splash money on marquee signings when they've just signed James Bentley. They've got 2 halfbacks that are costing big money. I think he's obviously developing players, which is what he does at you guys, and I get that side of it. I think he'd be really stupid to leave what he's worked on with you men to go and bit of a poison chalice into it as well.
Yeah, and I don't know what you'll think, Craig, but I think Tony Smith he's earned a bit of patience from Rovers fans. And what you'd say is, if you go to Leeds, it's such it's a frying pan, isn't it? As soon as you lose a couple of games, you're right up against it, and quite rightly so. They make big noise, they get big crowds. There's big expectations, and obviously this season they've spent big money on players, Craig. But I probably agree with Luke that it'd be pretty daft to jump out of. To go from Rovers to jump into Leeds, because he potentially could last a season, and before you know it, they're getting on his back if you don't get results straight away.
Yeah, it's like what Luke just said about the projects. We alluded to that at the beginning of the programme. I honestly don't know why. I don't get why he would go. Like I said, he's bringing the younger players through. He's enjoying his work at the moment. So yeah, I think for me, he's going to stay. I think anyway.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Well, Luke, we've got you on to talk about our Challenge Cup tie on Saturday, and obviously Leigh Centurions relegated from Super League, made a number of key signings. Obviously, probably the biggest appointment was Adrian Lamb coming in as head coach. First of all, before we go into the squads for Saturday, what have you made of Leigh under Adrian Lamb so far?
I think it's kind of took a couple of games to get going. There was a lot of pessimists about after the Featherstone game, but anyone who watched that game could see it was a mud bath. It wasn't a game for playing rugby league on. And what people forget is a lot of the players that have come into Leigh have come from the NRL or have come from playing on good pitches. And it goes back to that old football analogy, doesn't it? Can they do it on a rainy, cold night in Stoke? As much as we might not think it, that is the case for some of these Aussie players. People like 𝐂𝐜𝐿𝐵, who's playing fullback, been playing at Canberra. They played at Saints in a friendly on a carpet, and then they've gone from that to playing at Featherstone in the lashing down rain on an absolute mud bath. Featherstone would have been training on that pitch all week, so they'd have been used to it. They're used to playing on that. I said, even my little brother is the most glass half empty Leigh fan I've ever met, and he was coming away from that and he was saying, "That's it. The miles above us. A lot of my mates are Wigan fans, so obviously because it was on Premier Sports on the Monday night, they're all texting me, 'You've made all these signings and Featherstone are going to bog the league.' But I always said, take that result with a pinch of salt. Get anybody on a decent playing field, which I think we will, like Summer Bash at Headingley, and obviously get Featherstone back to LSV. I'm more than confident that we can turn Featherstone over, definitely."
Yeah, and obviously the Championship's enjoying a lot of coverage at the moment, especially with the Premier Sport showing games on a Monday night. And I've been surprised probably by the amount of players that clubs have been able to sign, especially from the NRL and Australia, New Zealand, etc. How surprised were you that you was able to make the signings that you had, or was you not surprised? Because obviously the investment Beaumont puts in and having a coach like Adrian Lamb, maybe that was expected.
it wasn't expected from me to get the calibre of player that we've got coming in. However, obviously Adrian Lamb's a big part behind that. He's obviously got his contacts over and people coming over to work for him. But as you mentioned there, Derek Beaumont, I think he deserves a special mention because he time and time again backs this club and he puts the investment in. And we're not just talking last 3, 4, 5 years, talking going back 2015, 16 when he signed Gareth Hawke, Harrison Hansen, Dane Weston came over, Fui Moi Moi, and that's where it started. But a lot of people never really saw Leigh at that point and forget about it. That's where Derek's investment started. And I know there's been times where we had that season where he kind of stepped back a little bit and we had a hybrid squad. But even then, he's come back and he's put his money where his mouth is. And as a Leigh fan, you can't fault him for that, because there's nowhere. As a Leigh fan growing up, going to Hilton Park, watching the likes of Neil Turley, Dave Bradbury, to go from that, if you'd have said to me then, in 20 years' time, for example, you're going to be watching ex-NRL players down at a brand new stadium and putting 50 on your local rivals, Wigan, I'd have said you're a madman. And we've done that. So big shout out to Derek for that.
Yeah. So we'll bring it to the present day. And the Rovers name their squad. Albert Vessier drops out with a calf injury alongside Will Tate. And Ben Crooks and 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐿 rejoin the squad in their places. Lachlan Coote is, of course, still out injured, as is Louis Johnson. But Will Maher, Rowan Milnes, Ben Crooks and Ethan Ryan could all make their returns for Robins after they were named in the squad. So the squad is Ben Crooks, Sean Kenny-Dowell, Ryan Hall, Jordan Abdul, Matty Parcell, George King, 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐿, Matty Staunton, Jez Litton, Corbin Sims, Elliot Minchella, Jimmy Kinehorse, Will Dagger, Mikey Lewis, Rowan Milnes, Will Maher, Ethan Ryan, Sam Wood, Greg Richards, Tom Garrett, and Frankie Holton. The Leigh squad is Callum Akins, Jai Hitchcock, Keenan Brand, Neil McDonald, Tom Nisbet, Ben Reynolds, Joe Mellor, Adam Sidlow, Aaron Smith, Joe Wardle, Sam Stone, Tom Amoni, Atahingiano, apologies for pronunciations, Ed Chamberlain, Jacob Jones, John Asiata, Louis Roberts, Kieran Dixon, of course, former Robin, Edwin Apape, and Christian Ino. Luke, who are the names in that squad we should be fearful of?
Well, obviously, you'll see the headlines if you watch any of the Premier Sport Monday night's games. You'll see Nenny McDonald, top try scorer, absolutely smashing it at centre. And he has been a massive signing for us. There's no getting away from that. However, the good thing for me is that the halfbacks are playing well and the forwards are also getting involved. Our best forward for me is Mark Ione, and he's injured for 4 to 6 weeks, so he's not playing this weekend. But for me, our number 10, he's been our best forward by a country mile, and unfortunately he's not playing. However, I think that squad is more than enough to give you boys a decent game on Saturday, definitely.
What type of game do you think it'll be, Luke? Because Rovers are. We're not renowned for being strong down the middle. We've got forwards who are workman-like and do a really good job. They put a lot of minutes in. George King, Matty Staunton, etc. Frankie Holton, but we're not wrecking balls. Are you expecting it to be played in the halves and out wide, or do you think Leigh will get success down the middle?
I'd like to say that we'd just turn up and think, do you know what, let's just have a go and we'll throw the ball about, because I know Adrian Lamb got a lot sticked into when he was at Wigan for playing boring rugby, and I can kind of get on board with that, and I can see parts of that when I watch us one-man rugby, forward drive, but some of the times this season when we've actually thrown the ball about and actually had a go at teams, obviously granted it's a much lesser opposition than what we'll be facing on Saturday, but that's when we've looked our best. So I hope that we try and throw it about and we try and match you. And obviously, we've not got an half-back of Mikey Lewis's calibre, do you know what I mean? So we are struggling a bit on that. But if they do want to go down the middle, I would like to think that our forward pack would definitely, because I remember when we played you last year at Craven Park, and your forwards absolutely hammered us. Every time we played 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐿, he mauls all over us every single time. The last game in the Challenge Cup, probably 2 years ago now, weren't it? The last game before COVID, I came down there and 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐿, and we push you right to the end that day. I think he scored in the 78th, 79th minute to win it. And I genuinely think this team we've got this season is much better than the team we've had for the last 2 seasons. So if we want to go down the middle, hopefully we can challenge your forwards down the middle. If you want to play and throw it about a bit, hopefully we can control Lynette and SKD, Mikey Lewis, and whoever else you throw at us.
Yeah, Keith, I'm just going to bring you in because obviously in previous seasons and previous Challenge Cup ties, we've often seen a raft of changes to the match day squad with a number of youngsters, etc. But when you look at that squad, it's pretty much our strongest lineup, isn't it? And obviously, we're only 3 games away from being at Tottenham in the final.
Yeah.
Are you pleased to see that Tony Smith's gone with a strong squad and he hasn't decided to?
I mean, I was looking at Luke's going on about the players they've got. They've got 5 overseas players, and 4 of them have played in the NRL. And one player that has always impressed me and is the most underrated halfback in the league for me is that Joe Mellor.
100%. Yeah.
I think he's a brilliant player. And that Reynolds, he does things off the cuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've got a real good 6 and 7 there. I think you've got a good repair. Sidlow's another one that's always impressed me.
Yeah.
Why, when he was at Toronto, he was outstanding with them. Kieran Dixon, well, you never know what you're going to get with Kieran, do you? He
won't be playing. Kieran Dixon won't be playing. I'll put that out there now. He won't be in the squad. He won't be.
I mean, and that name McDonald, I've noticed what they've been saying about him. They reckon he's the next Super League. Not thinking that you're going to get in Super League locally, but they think he's going to be the next big Super League, to come up from the Championship. So, no, I think it'll be a tough game. Playing Leigh have always been an hard side. It's like when years ago you used to go to Bramley and Dewsbury and places like that. There was always hard games, and Leigh are in that category, aren't they? No matter how you play, Leigh Manners, Welfare, any of them, it's always an hard game. So they don't want to be thinking just because they're playing in the Championship, they'll put it up as don't you worry.
Yeah, and Craig.
Sorry, do you think that's why Tony... Go on, John.
No, I was going to say, look, go on. No, look, you carry on, go on, mate.
I was just going to say, do you think that's why Tony Smith's picked the squad that he's picked? If it was someone like a Barrow, for example, do you think he would have rested a few and maybe made a few changes?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a Challenge Cup, isn't it? They're one-off games. And like we spoke earlier about these coaches, I've picked the games I think we can win. I don't go for that. I would play my strongest team. If I could put a team out, I would play them every week. Because they want to be playing. They don't want to be rested. If you play the game, you want to play, don't you? No matter who you're playing for, you want to play. And I don't think it is. I think he would have picked the same team.
And Craig, I'm just going to bring you in. Obviously, the Championship's getting stronger and stronger. At one stage this season, Toulouse looks like absolutely cannon fodder, and then they go beat the reigning Super League champions. So it shows, doesn't it, that and that's a team that's not had great investment and signed a whole raft of players. So it shows that teams in the Championship are more than capable of getting results against Super League sides. How worried are you on Saturday that if Rovers don't turn up, that Leigh are going to be able to take the victory?
I think it's a one-off game. Anything can happen, and I've always actually said Leigh's a proper rugby league club. They bring a lot of supporters. They put in the effort, especially against us for some reason. I don't know why. But like this season, they have recruited really well. Like you talk about the NRL players, talk about players like Joe Mellor. I've always rated him as well. Adam Sidler.
Joe Wardle.
Joe Wardle, when he was at Huddersfield, brilliant. And
don't forget Christianino. I mean, he can win the game on his own, can't he?
Yeah.
I think he's relatively an old man now, but he's still got it. He's still got
definitely.
It.
Yeah.
It's mostly the experience, the need there. But I think it's going to be a tight game. I think we're showing them the respect probably deserve. Am I right is Leigh still full-time club?
Yeah.
So they'll be wanting to prove a point to the rest of the Championship, but to themselves as well, and to the rest of the Super League. But at the same time, we've got to get that confidence and we've got to get a win.
I think one of the things as well sorry, go on, Keith.
No, go on, Luke.
I keep butting in. I feel like I'm taking over your show
here.
So apologies. I was saying that I think a big thing as well is no matter what we're saying, whether you're a player, if you're in that position to turn up and play likes of Widnes, no disrespect to these clubs, by the way, but if you've come from playing NRL or Super League, you've dropped down to the Championship and you've got to go and play these teams, it must be really difficult. When you look at the bookies handicap and you're minus 26, it must be really difficult for a player to turn up and give it 100%. And I get the professionals, I understand that. However, in this situation, these players are going to be thinking, do you know what, like you mentioned before, if Leigh don't go up, there's probably going to be a Super League team that will take a risk on me here. I'm playing Super League opposition. I'm going up against my fellow, a Super League second row, Super League centre, whatever it may be. And it's them putting themselves in the short market window, because a lot of Leigh players are in a position where, yeah, they're happy at Leigh. However, if Leigh don't get up this year, a lot of them probably will either move back home or move up to the Super League. So they've got to do it for their own career as well. So I think that'll play a massive part in our performance on Saturday.
It's really interesting that you say that, Luke, because we all, as well as doing this Red Robin podcast, weekly podcast, we do a heritage podcast where we interview former players, etc. And whenever you speak to an Aussie or a New Zealand who's come over here, one of the first things they say about is Challenge Cup. And you know, if you talk to the ones back in the 80s, staying up late to watch the Challenge Cup, the Challenge Cup final at Wembley, and you know, players are come over on the stories of Challenge Cup. So probably going to be the same for Leigh. That definitely, you're right. That no disrespect to the other teams in the Championship, but if they get a chance of getting to a semi-final, a final, that's their, you know, that's where they're bringing the families over. That's where they're making a big do of it. So it is going to be really interesting because the motivation is slightly different, isn't it?
Definitely.
For teams. But Craig, Rovers have got their own motivation, haven't they? Because we've got a lot of wrongs to right after that 2015 humiliation against Leeds, really. And you have to go back a long way since the last time we did win at Wembley and win a Challenge Cup. And much the same as Leigh, you know. Just because we're a Super League team, we want to win it just as much as anyone. No. I suppose for you, Craig, I guess you're just hoping that the players feel the same way as the supporters do.
Yeah, I think they will. And, you know, with Tony Smith picking that strong squad, I think it shows that that'll be one of the targets this year. I remember us doing the podcast at the start of the season and being realistic. Would we go for the grand final or Challenge Cup? And I think the majority of us said, you know, that it's got to be the Challenge Cup. We're not at that grand final stage yet. So when you say like 3 points today, well,
you what,
I remember when I was playing for Keith League and we went to Widnes, just before the Cup Kings, and we was winning 5-0 at half time, and our chairman come in and said, "You're on another fiver." That meant it was on 20 quid to beat Widnes at Widnes, and we beat them, believe it or not. And then we played Wigan in the third round, and that was great because it's the Challenge Cup, and you want to get to Wembley, right? Yeah. You should want to win every game you ever play. Anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely. I know you look at Luke, you look at the Rovers squad, and you've probably seen a few games on Sky and stuff. Who are the standout players that you're most fearful of?
Like I mentioned before, Kane, Lynette always seems to do well against us. Always seems to, whoever's playing in his opposite type, playing for Leigh, it always seems to maul all over him. Soft hands like an halfback. Obviously, the people like SKD as well. Obviously, Mikey Lewis is exceptional, isn't he? And what's your guys' thoughts on Mikey Lewis? Is it just a stepping stone for bigger things for him, or is it? Do you think he's here for a few years?
Go wash your mouth out, Luke.
To be honest, Luke, I think once you play for Rovers, I think the only way is down, in it. So
that's a fair point.
You know, I think unless he goes and plays for England, I think that's probably
good answer.
To be honest, Luke, I think you know, we're really realistic with Mikey Lewis, and to be fair, he's still learning. He's still a young kid. He's been propelled into a position that he's in, but also he's still got a long way to go yet, and it'd be interesting to see how he goes once he's got, you know, a full season under his belt and then another one. And you've seen over at St Helens, sort of Louis Dodd, he was the big name the first few rounds. He's sort of quieting down a little bit, and that's the difference with rugby league, isn't it? You've got to do it week in, week out. You've got to play week in, week out, and you'll be able to hit the levels. And Craig, I was going to ask you actually about Jordan Abdul, about, you know,
I was just going to say, funnily enough, it'll really help him having someone like Jordan Abdul at the side of him, because he can take control of a game, can't he? And he can take the sting out of a game. If you're under a bit of pressure, and say, take Mikey Lewis out of the spotlight a little bit and put a kick into touch and just relieve a bit of pressure, it's really good to have someone like that next to him, I think, as an outsider looking in, obviously.
Yeah, and that's an outsider's perspective. I was going to say, but
you not rate him?
Well, the last 2 games have probably been his best, haven't they, Craig?
Yeah, he's getting there. He's not started well, and I think there was an interview with him on the Super League show that he doesn't sound like he's nowhere near the level he was at last year yet, and this is why it could be possibly a big game for him at weekend. I think he's got to take control of the game.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, I think we're going to start seeing Rome Mills come in.
Can I just? I think Jordan's got a problem where he's more worried about what the other players are doing than what he's doing, and you often get that with a so-called playmaker. Instead of taking them on now and again himself, he's passing the. I went through it as a captain coach, where you're more worried about what the other players are doing than playing your own game, and I think he's going through that syndrome. And Mikey Lewis, what I like about Mikey Lewis is Tony Smith more or less says to him, go and do what you like, and they haven't took. A lot of these coaches take the skill out of the players. This Australian thing is don't take any chances, percentage football and like that. Mikey Lewis just does what he wants. Every now and again he'll do this little chip over the top, check it. He's done it twice, hasn't he? And there aren't many players do it.
Joe Miller's the same for us. When we played York a few weeks back, I think it was 8-6 or 10-6 to us at half time. Second half, every single one of our tries came from a kick, and it was Joe Miller one. He chipped it over at fullback's head, ran round the back, scored. Chip over, like every single try in the second half was through a Joe Miller kick, and it was like that's the off the cuff player that you want.
That's right. I hate these when they talk about game plans and structures, and your game plan is you play on with the players you've got out on the paddock, right? That's what your game plan should be played on. You don't expect somebody who's taking, say somebody coming new for Mikey Lewis, and Mikey Lewis is on fire, and they bring a young kid in and expect that young kid to do the same job as Mikey Lewis has done. It don't work, No. You use your players for what you're good at. To me, Mikey Lewis should be doing is backing up the forwards because he's quick. Let Abdul dictate the play. You can't have 2 women in one kitchen. You can only have one taking the role. And it happened with Rovers, didn't it, when Drinkwater was here?
Yeah.
We had 2 halfbacks, 2 ball-playing halfbacks, and nobody did it because everybody was waiting for the other one. It's... Yeah.
I'm going to have to put an apology on the end of the podcast now because of you, Keith.
Right. I think Chris, at the same time,
was offended by Keith Pollard's comments. I'll put your email address out so they can direct them straight to you rather than to me.
Chris, I was going to say as well, last year though, we did the unexpected. Teams didn't expect, and that our left-hand side were outstanding. And obviously, other teams, when they come up against us now, they try and nullify that. Yeah. So I think it's about Abdul, them left-hand side players, adapting where it's different calls or something. So I was mostly being a bit harsh, expecting the same kind of player, but at the same time, it's early on in the season and they are going to have to change the way they play and adapt different calls and set players.
Yeah. Well, whatever happens, it's certainly set up to be an intriguing afternoon of Challenge Cup rugby, and who knows how it's going to turn up. I think I'm confident that with the squad that Rovers have named, that we should have enough. But what I don't think it'll be is a runaway score, and I expect it to be close. We've seen that with Rovers already this season. That with the amount of tries that we've scored, we're not running away with games. It'd be great if we could hammer Leigh, but I don't think we will. And I think Luke will probably agree that with the way they've been playing, that they're going to be more than a match for Hull Kingston Rovers. It's a Saturday afternoon kick-off, Luke. Are we expecting many Leigh fans to travel over for the game?
I would imagine so. That's one thing about us as well. We travel really well, so no matter how, I was at the game on Monday night, and there was probably 350, 400 there. But when you think of Monday night, it's on Premier Sports. You know what I mean? People are finishing work, got to get up there. I know it's only York. You've got to get up there for a quarter to 8 kickoff. But same at Featherstone. It seems like we've not been punished, but we're the team that everybody wants on Premier Sports. I think we've had 4 Monday night games, and apart from one, all have been away, and that kind of you think would dampen it a little bit. But Leigh fans just seem to embrace it and travel still. But yeah, that is one thing that we're really good at. I'm kind of proud of, so to speak. Is just we take a good following everywhere, and whether it's a Monday night, we'll still take 300-400 over to Yorkshire. But yeah, I'd imagine the decent ticket price as well, isn't it? Really good value, I think, for the ticket prices. So £15 for an adult, you can't complain at that. So I think we'll take it. I think we'll take a few.
Yeah. Well, whatever happens, Luke, like we said, we wish you all the best for the for the season. Hopefully, you don't have that much good luck on Saturday because you know.
Same to you, boys.
We're desperate to get to Wembley, but Luke, you've given us a really good insight into the Leigh team, and it's been great speaking to you, mate. So for now, take care, mate, and hopefully, I will pass Mike Cross in the near future.
Always appreciate you having me on. Thanks very much.
Take care, Luke. Cheers. Bye,
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Just one thing to mention, obviously, Ben Crooks is named back in the squad for Saturday, Craig. Ben Crooks, Ethan Ryan, Sam Wood, Jimmy Kynehorst. And then if you throw Will Dagger at fullback, do they surely all can't play, can they?
Right. I think will come in for Vetty.
Okay.
I think Milnes will come in for Litton. I've got Ryan in for Kynehorst, and they'll move Wood to centre, even Ryan on the wing. I don't know. It might not happen, but if Tony Smith's going to throw a curveball, it might actually be Crooks to come in for SKD to give him a rest. I can't see that happening, but if he's going to throw a curveball, I think that one, it'll be that.
Yeah, and Keith, Wilmar, Ben Crooks, Roy Milnes, all featured for the reserves. Got 80 minutes under the belt.
Yeah, I went to watch the reserves.
Yeah, are you expecting them to start against Leigh, or do you think Tony Smith will go with more or less a similar team to what played against Catalan on Friday?
I think he'll go with the Catalans. I do, honest. As I say, it's a challenge cup, isn't it? And if you put players in that aren't really, it's all right playing in that in the A team there, and playing against St Helens, and there was a lot of young kids, you know what I mean? And they should have beat them as well. But
yeah,
it's a different story playing half a game against them or a game against them, and then going in against Leigh in the Challenge Cup. Like we just said, I think he'll play the strongest team.
Yeah, and thanks to Adam Wadworth who's joined us. He's watching tonight. He says, "Are you concerned by our lack of tries in games so far, and would you consider giving Milnes a go in the halves? Abdul, for example, has talked a very good game in the media. I think obviously he was on the Super League show, wasn't he? But he has yet to turn up in games. Is it time for a change, just to freshen it up a little bit?"
It's difficult one. I think it's this week. I think they'll keep Abdul Lewis. Obviously, if we lose, there's going to be changes. I can't see us losing. I think. But the thing is, I like.
Remember the Oldham game, Craig? Go back to the Oldham game.
Yeah. I've erased that from the memory, Keith, so I can't go back.
I had so many fans.
No, but Keith, so an interesting point, isn't it? Because we talk about partnerships and building partnerships and stuff, and people are saying throw Rowan Milnes in and stuff, but do you think Abdul and Lewis still need more time to play in the halves?
I'm not one. I don't go a great deal on this partnership thing. It's you've had great half-back partnerships, yes, Hardesty and Epworth, Millward and Hartley and blokes like that. But they all had their own individual play, right? And to me, like I said earlier, Jordan, to me, is too lateral because we're too flat, right? He should be dictating play, he should be staying right, and he should be the one checking the ball. It's all right having two halfbacks if one's left-handed and one's right-handed, so you can play left and right, because it's a lot easier to pass the ball that way if you're right-handed, and then you can play that way right-handed. That's why your left-hand side is always the strongest. All the left wingers right through rugby league have always been the top try scorers, because everybody passes the ball to the left easier, because 90% of people are right-handed, and you pass the ball easier that way. But I don't think I just think he wants to. If I was Tony Smith, I'd say to Jordan, look, don't worry about the rest of them. Just worry about your own game, right? Go out there and play your own game. But they have all these structures, don't they, and game plans, and just a load of rubbish to me.
Well, as we've seen already this week, who knows what Tony Smith's thinking at times.
That's right.
Until we get the.
Can I just go on? I just on that thing. When Jordan was at London and we went to London to play, he played us off the paddock.
I've got no doubt that Jordan Abdul can win a game on his own. He can win it. He can kick his team to death with his positional play. He can get the conversions. He can take on a defence close to the line. Sure. He can make breaks. But the only frustration I have sometimes with Jordan Abdul is that when he's not playing like that, he goes totally the other way and he's almost anonymous. That's right. And you struggle to see what he does in the game.
Because he's more worried about what the others are doing. He's trying to make other players play better to the detriment of his game.
Well, like we said, time will tell on Saturday, won't it? And like we said, Tony Smith's not afraid to throw a curveball in there. So whether Jordan Abdul makes the lineup, whether Mikey Lewis does, whether Roy Milnes gets the game.
I mean, isn't Milne a centre? His actual position is a centre, isn't it?
That's not his best position, though, is it?
I don't know. I've never seen him play there.
No, I think he's he started his career there, and then I think obviously when he came to Rovers and from Bradford, he was a halfback, and at Rovers he is, and I think that's his position.
Halfback in the world. He's about 6'2", isn't he?
Yeah. Well, but then again, you got George Law at Castleford, who's probably the tallest hooker in the
That's right.
in the world.
He'll never be in a hooker as long as he points to the ground.
Yeah. So, Craig, what's your predictions for Saturday?
I think we'll end up winning like 20-14, but I think it'll be quite close first half, and I think second half our fitness will just take over. They've had a short turnaround as well. Like Luke said, they played Monday, and I think our fitness will shine through at the end. Yeah, 28-14.
Yeah, and are you confident, Keith, that we're going to get the result on Saturday?
I'm confident, but I don't think it'll be. I mean, if Rovers tackle like they did against Catalan, and they can keep them down, I think we could run away with it.
Yeah, but, I hope so. It'd be great to see some champagne.
I think if we let them play a bit, I think there might only be 2 or 3 points in it.
Yeah. Well, let's see. And of course, tickets are still available. If you remember, of course, you need to buy your own tickets. You can't just go on your membership pass. You're going to have to dip your hand into your pocket and go. So it'll be, it's promising to be an interesting game of rugby league on Saturday. But I fully believe that Rovers have got enough to beat them, and it'd be nice to see Tony Smith hopefully watching from the dugout after all the rumours that have been circulating today. Before we sign off, we're going to release Heritage Cast 19 with Rovers royalty John Doherty. Keith, just before we sign off, John Doherty played 94 times for Rovers, scored 37 tries, 224 goals, 603 points. He was a Division 1 champion, Premiership winner, one of the few players to do the double, of course, for the first time. He won the Harry Sunderland Trophy. He was a Yorkshire Cup winner, Challenge Cup winner, John Player Trophy runner-up. He had a stellar career over in Australia. What were your memories of John Doherty?
Missed that goal at Wembley. No, I've met John a few times. He was a great bloke. He was a fantastic player. Cold and low, he was a great player, and he's still involved in the game. He's chairman at West Wollongong, his club he started at, and he was just a great player. He finished up where he coached Wigan, didn't he? He coached Halifax, and he's a gentleman as well,
Yeah, and that's right, Keith. When I spoke to him, as good a player as he was, obviously I was, not young enough to see him play, but when I spoke to him, he was just such a gentleman, spoke so fondly of his time at Hull Kingston Rovers, Colin Hutton, Roger Millward, just couldn't talk more highly of him. He had such a good time, and for someone who's had such a good career over in Australia, he still regards his time at Rovers as the best time of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of them players. When he had the ball, it was one of when I never played against him. But when you see him play, he kind of mesmerised the opposition when he had the ball in his hand. Don Fox was similar to that style. His mentality of the game, he beat players, just he outthought them. You know what I mean? And he was giving it this, and it wasn't that quick as a stand-up, but he was a wonderful player.
Yeah. So that Heritage Cast is going to be released on Sunday. So I advise you all to listen to it because it is a really fantastic listen. And as like all Heritage Casts, you know, it's a player who's come from abroad who's regards Hull Kingston Rovers so highly, but not only the club, his time with the people in East Hull and the memories that he's made. It's a time that he looks back really fondly. And Craig, you're a big fan of the Heritage Cast, aren't you? What do you enjoy about him?
Yeah, I just think it's got hearing the stories. You know, obviously I was born in the 80s, and to know what some of the players went through, the club itself. You get a great picture of their lives coming through, like rugby league and being at Hull Kingston Rovers.
You want to get yourself to the Heritage meetings last Wednesday of the month, Craig?
My nan and granddad go. They tell me about them all the time.
We're doing this month. We've got Jason Netherton there talking about the academy system and what have you. And next month we've got John Edson coming back, who coached the Colts when Mike Smith and Gary Clark and all them blokes came through. So
give us a plug, Keith. So if people want to find out more about the history of Hull Kingston Rovers, you have your Heritage Trust meetings every month. What date are they on? What time and where can people?
7 o'clock last Wednesday of every month in the Legends Lounge, and it's free. You can get yourself a cup of tea. Sometimes the bar's open, but not always, so we won't guarantee that. But it starts at 7 o'clock and finishes round about 9 o'clock. So we sometimes have film shows. We have people giving a talk, or just a good night. And we try and get a few more younger people coming. So Craig, get yourself there.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, Keith might even let you get a word in edgeways. This has been the Red Robin Podcast Weekly. It's been another great show. Great to hear about Luke from Leigh and hear about what he thinks about the game. It's going to be an interesting next few days, isn't it, with the game coming up on Saturday and all the rumours flying around about Tony Smith. But this has been the Red Robin Podcast, powered by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Ties Auto Centre. And remember, live, love, laugh and be happy.